the agenda, we'll get started. Oh, there. Oh, we got it. Okay. Starting meeting. Oh, we got it. Okay.
Hello.
I'm gonna fix sorry. I know. Here we go. Okay. All right, I just emailed them both and let them know that they can't. Yeah.
All right, guys, I think I got wrangled into running the meeting. I'm a non-voting member, but we'll get this thing moving here. And at this time, I'd like to make a call to order for the University Academy board meeting. We do not have a quorum present, but we'll after we get everybody in later.
There is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, yeah. Here,
1, 2, 3, 4.
He's got to be.
Yeah.
Oh,
They'll be
yes,
sworn.
okay.
Yeah,
So we
they'll be
quorum
sworn.
after that's done. Okay.
Yeah.
If we could stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
At this time, we need to have the swearing in of newly elected and appointed board members, Dr. Neil Gray and Mr. Daniel Rodriguez.
We'll do Danny first, since you're a returning member. So if you will please stand, raise your right hand. Okay, you're gonna have to read this statement first, which is your statement of office, or excuse me, yeah, statement of officer.
Okay. I, Daniel Rodriguez, do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help me God.
If you'll sign that statement. Okay, and now you will take your oath of office for your returning member of your new election.
I, Daniel Rodriguez, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of UT Tyler University Academy Board Member, the state of Texas, and will do my best of my ability to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
Okay. If you will sign that one, and then Christian will notarize it for you. Okay, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
All right, Dr. Gray, your turn. All right, raise your right hand and take your statement of office.
I, Neil Gray, do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office of employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as rewarded, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be. So help me God.
Okay, if you will sign that statement, please.
Oops.
Ready? Now raise your right hand and take your oath of office.
I, Neil Gray, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the UT Tyler University Academy Board Member of the state of Texas, and will do the best of my ability to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God.
Okay, sign that statement, please. Okay, welcome to the board. All right. And so that everybody knows, Dr. Gray is filling in as
Dr. Hickey mentioned before the meeting, for Dr. McGinnis. And so he is filling in the remainder of his term, which is 1 year remaining. And Mr. Rodriguez was reelected for his new term, which will be for a 3-year term as a parent member.
Very good. Moving on to the consent agenda, which is only one item on the consent agenda, which are previous minutes. Everyone had an opportunity to look over the minutes. Anybody find anything that needs to be adjusted or changed? Could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion, Mr. Rodriguez. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Consent agenda passes. I'm lost.
The request approval. for-
Not yet. So requesting approval for the 2019-2020 Region 7 E-Agreement Services. Dr. Sims, do you have anything there that you need to update us on?
So every year, as the board's aware, we have to sign a new agreement with Region 7. Region 7 is the services centers that we're signed to utilize select services. And so part of this documentation just shows the services that we're going to utilize through the 1920 school year. So through the e-agreement, we're able to select the services. So you can see the biggest service that we're going to look at utilizing this year is the academic content. That's where we get a lot of our PD from that we can't offer in-house. And we tried to look at offering it in-house, but the cost to bring in somebody last year, we decided to go back and utilize the service center. So you can see there are the different things that we use. We used our DMAC for data. That's one of the biggest also expenses that we use.
The rest of the documentation is just a lot more detail of the items that were just listed.
I think it's a little over $22,000 is what we allot to Region 7.
But our Sims, we use all the stuff that you have right there. So you think it was worthwhile and recommend that we continue?
Yes, absolutely.
Do I have any questions? Can I get a motion to approve the Region 7 E-Agreement Service contract?
I'll make the motion to approve the contract.
Have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We have a request for approval for the 18-19 budget amendments. Okay, Ms. Lee.
No, actually,
Oh,
Christian.
Christian, okay.
In just a second to get to them. Hold on just a second.
My notes for how.
Okay, I want to point out that I have a 3.1 and a 3.2 amendment. So the first one is 3.1, and this one is on, let me see, these are our activity account funds, like our PTO funds and our student activity, campus activity funds. And I wanted to separate those out so that you can see the difference. So they're not all jumbled in with the general fund. This one is just, we found out this year that we needed to be budgeting those funds. In the past, we had budgeted them. So this amendment just covers budgeting them and the expenses.
they were actually included on our, for like last year, we actually moved them into our audit for the first year. Those funds that were being collected, at first we did not have them in our budgets, and they were basically being accounted for separately. And then after speaking with the auditor, she said we need to be bringing those into the audit and actually budgeting those on the budget. So we brought them into the audit last year. And so those are accounted for. And then now this year we're putting them actually into the budget, so they'll be accounted for throughout. But those are funds, those activity funds are funds that we can't use on general type items. So like, because they're fundraised, most of them are fundraised items for clubs and for the campuses. So they're using them for either club activities or individual campus type activities.
3.2 budget change was for the general fund budget. And this has, most of the changes here are moving funds around to cover some construction projects that come up. And most of it's going in here in 51 and 31 for student transportation. And then a small portion of this is just moving some funds around of people's salaries that were originally budgeted, but like their duties had changed over the years, so we needed to move it into the appropriate function to reflect what their duties were.
So to talk about student transportation, as you know, we don't offer transportation as far as a pickup and drop off route. But this year we are purchasing, in fact, we have already made the purchase. So that's where the $145,000 there and for a total of 193 is reflected. We purchased 3 12-passenger vans, brand new. So each campus will have a 12-passenger van, and the vans they need to have additional vans. They can work with each other to arrange for a passenger van to be brought to one of the campuses. So if they need additional vehicles, that can be arranged. And then we also we're excited, we bought a brand new school bus. And that will be here in Tyler, that can be utilized across the district as well. It is a 2020 and it costs around $95,000. And it will be here for the start of the school year. It's one of those things that we felt like that the teachers expressed that they need the opportunity to have be able to take the students to different activities across the area, and then oftentimes that was limited because of transportation. So we felt like this was a purchase that was needed, and so we're excited, and I know the staff is going to be excited to hear that we're going to have these available. We've looked at it over the last couple of years. The biggest conflict that we seemed to run into was the fact that we would try to lease and we would think we were saving money, but by the time you lease, then you have to have a number of passengers in the car to meet compliance code with the university. It would cost us additional leases to even apply. So that's really why we looked at the 12-passenger vans and then the bus. So they're excited about this.
The bus will be here before school starts. I've confirmed that just here in the last, this morning, they confirmed that they will try to get it here before the 19th. So we will have that. The vans have like 120 to 150 day turnaround, and we ordered it in mid-June, so it may not be here. They say it can be earlier, but they're actually being manufactured where the bus was on the lot. So
And the vans will be, so each campus will have a brand new van too. Exciting.
So who we had people that are CDL certified to be able to drive the bus?
So that's one of the things that we're looking at promoting. We currently have an opportunity that we tell teachers that are employees, if they're interested, that we will pay for them to get their CDL license and support them. I think the fact that we had older buses, and just going to throw it out there, that a lot of people didn't feel comfortable getting their CDL because of the issues that we had with some of the buses. They didn't feel comfortable. I think now that we do have a newer bus, I think they'll be more comfortable stepping into a newer bus. It's just the responsibility of trying to transport students on a bus that's already broke down and, in the last trip, and now we're hoping it's going to make this trip. So we're looking at ways to encourage. And it's usually just a pretty short trip, that we need someone. And, I think it'd be a great opportunity for some parent that, maybe he's retired that can want to make some extra money to be able to get their CDL and help.
we have 2 part-time drivers in Longview that share the duties because they're just as needed. Both of them have other jobs. And so they kind of like, if we have a need, they call one of them and which one can do that. And then Palestine had one, and he's a good option, but he does a lot of mission work. And so he's off in Africa right now. So he's not available. So they're trying to find somebody else. And then here in Tyler, they've struggled the most finding somebody, but they did get it. One of their staff now has finished that, but of course they're moving into a new role. So I don't know how that
She's an
works.
instructional coach, so pulling her out of the classroom to run a route or to take a field trip is not the best use of her time.
The problem with hiring outside people is that we really only need them on occasion and part-time, and most of them are already driving for other districts, and so it's just hard for them to fit it into what they're already doing.
We even talked about trying to find someone centrally here in Tyler, because if they lived here in Tyler, they could likely, we could pay them to drive to Longview to drive the bus, or pay them to drive to Palestine to drive the bus, because we have looked at trying to cost it out to even lease buses and and leash dry, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
that's just another nightmare in itself. And the cost of that is just astronomical. So, you know, we've sent out information to parents to say, you know, through emails and alerts to say if you know of anyone or if anyone's interested. But I think now that we have a newer bus, I think if we get that information out to parents, we might find someone, especially if we can promise them or give them an opportunity to drive for all three campuses.
Were there other buses? Like I know Longview has one, Palestine has a bus. Do we own those?
Yes.
Okay, and then the one that Tyler had, or did they have a school bus?
So we had three buses, or we have three buses. One bus was not usable. And so the other two buses are pretty old. And so what we're hoping to do is within the budget, each year try to look at having one new bus on each campus. Now, you know, just looking at the options. But so right now Tyler has a bus. Or had a bus, and so they basically, the bus wasn't assigned to any campus last year simply because we only had two, so they just traded them out. So next year there will be a bus on all three campuses. But in the event a group needs to make a trip to Dallas, they can definitely borrow the new bus. This is not just for the Tyler campus only, so they can switch it out.
We'll put the Tyler one or the new one in Tyler because of the central location and because they do have the most students, and then place the other two on the other campuses. But like a couple of years ago, they've made trips to Colorado and things. Well, we've had to rent like 9 12-passenger vans to get kids to Colorado because first of all, we didn't trust our buses to go to Colorado. And then of course with 9 buses, that means 9 drivers, 9 navigators. So that puts you with 7 kids per van. And so just the cost of the vans plus the man hours and everything, it was kind of crazy. So now with the new bus, you could feel comfortable sending even the new bus to Colorado. So
Kids want to take a trip to Dallas or Fort Worth, they can make arrangements to come here and get on the new bus, and we can have someone, if we have a driver, if you're in Tyler, that's why it makes sense to have the driver here in Tyler, because the driver can pick up the brand new bus, go pick up the kids in Longview or Palestine, and then go on their trip.
I'll point out too, the new bus has the 3-point harnesses on because it's the new under the new laws and requirements, where our old buses do not. So for like your little kids too.
Yeah, we had trouble with that because we had
Because of the
car
car
seats. And, the truth of it is, the teachers were just like, okay, so it's not working. We'll create our own
Right.
pumpkin patch in the classroom this year because trying to get to the pumpkin patch is not worth it. So we're excited.
Even the drivers of the 312 passengers, they all are going through the UT Tyler driving training. Right?
Correct.
Yeah, there's a training, but for a bigger bus, there's a
The CDL.
a CDL
Yeah, all of our drivers
bus
are
driver
driving
certification.
advanced through university.
$30.
Done all that.
Do we have to have the bus driver certification if we're not running routes? Do you remember?
Yes, you still have to
We
have
still
it.
do? Okay.
Yes.
Couldn't remember. I know we looked at that one.
So they have to have the P and the S, and they have to be, drug screened and because they fall under CDL rules. Where the 12-passenger vans, you don't have to have the CDL or anything, but you do have to have the van training through the university, which all of our people that drive it have. All of our full-time employees are driver trained, and then probably I would say at least 5 to 10 per campus are van trained as well.
This is just a crazy idea that all firefighters have to be CDL trained, CDL licensed. And most of them have a second job because they'll work 24 on and then 48 off. You may reach out to some of the fire stations, see if any of those firemen want
Well,
a
we have
second
a fire
job.
station right down the street.
We do,
Yeah.
and they're top-notch people. Plus,
Yeah.
most of them are emergency trained, but
Yeah.
that might be a good idea because many of them have a second-time
Oh.
job. And
Great
so-
idea. Absolutely. Yeah.
They might have to get the S endorsement, but other than that, they probably already have everything else.
I mean, we
They're
can
already
afford to pay
CDL.
them a little, that it'd be a pretty nice little extra income, given the amount of students we have now, the amount of trips. And so, yeah, great idea. We'll reach out.
Very good. All right, so, Lori lost my train of thought here.
Approval.
Christian, budget amendments. So
Yes.
we had some for, activity accounts, and you had those that mainly deal with transportation and maintenance stuff, and then some cleanup of, contracts and personnel. So, any questions on the budget amendments? I have a motion to approve.
We'll make the motion.
A motion, second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
We probably will have a few more budget amendments too at the August 1, because our fiscal year does end August 31. So as we're getting through the months and getting reconciliations and we start cleaning things up, we can see where we need to move some things. And so.
Very good.
All right, so now it's the informational items. We're going to start with the STAR overview. We have preliminary data, and you had an opportunity to see some of that through a report that Mr. Weaver created, but this time I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Weaver so that he can briefly explain what we are projecting.
Did I hear you say briefly?
Uh-huh.
I get enthusiastic about sharing data and accountability information. I do have a hard copy if you don't have a digital with you. I would prefer to look at that maybe. Especially when it looks like we're doing well. Let me emphasize that final results, as it were, don't come out until August the 5th for us to preview, and then August the 14th, but even then there's an appeal period in case something might be wrong. But wanted to share with you how we think we're doing, given all the data collection we're able to look at. We're also able to compare notes with Region 7. They now have a tool through DMAC that's rather complete, although we've actually found errors in their calculations. But putting all that together, we can give you a picture of where we think we're going to be. And also, it serves as an opportunity just to, again, kind of stay educated about the accountability system. So I'm going to go through it, and then I would really appreciate it if there's any questions, because that helps me know if I'm communicating or what could be emphasized more, or what I might come back with at another time. So there's a chart up there at the top that kind of points out what the district grades were. And if you look at that column, last year we made a B. That's up there at the top, called the overall grade. And you get that from the grades below it. There was a B, D, D, B. But if you look to the far left, you choose the highest of those first three grades. You choose the highest of D1, D2A, and D2B. And then you get 70% of that, and you get 30% of D3. So that's what gave us the B89 last year. It looks as though, with all the data coming in, that score will raise to a 91. And you'll also see that even those Ds that weren't used in the calculation have improved. Because obviously we still pay attention to those, even though, as a teacher would say, we drop those grades, but we still pay attention to them and try to improve them. And then each of it is reflected in the different campuses. I'm going to go ahead and go over and try to stick to script, and then take some questions on the observations and definitions below. Number one, you will notice if you look over this that the grades improved in 18 of 20 areas. The numerical grade went up, and it stayed the same in 2 areas, so nothing went backwards. I will mention there that I had just talked to a group of new teachers and briefly noted to them that in one sense, there's a lot of different ways to look at this data. We improved by like a 4%. We'll talk about this at another time, and the first they clapped, and my first lesson in data analysis was, well, we don't know if that's good or bad. We got to wait to see how the state did and how the region did. If they did 10% better this year, it means everybody's all getting better at it, and maybe we weren't that great. It ends up the state is about 2% better, and the region's a little suppressed from that, just a little over 1% better. So 4% is looking good. Number two, the district grades that were used for calculating the overall grade, as I pointed out, improved from B's to A's. So it looks as though we will have that A. And the subdomains that didn't count in this case, we did improve one of them by 17 points from a D, 65, to a B, 82. And the other one, we improved 10 points from a D, 69 to a C, 79. I do caution again, I talk as though it's done. This is preliminary data. Number three, and the next four, I do want to go over these domains. D1 is called Domain 1. It is the measure of achievement for all students in all tests. Here at our school, we call it the 90-60-30. We figured out early on that back in the day, it would say, how many did you get to pass? That's that first one. And people were trying to get 80% to pass, and they'd be really happy. The 60 and the 30 have been added now. Now you have to see how many you can get to meet, which is more of a college readiness standard, and then how you can get to master's, which is a more solid college readiness standard. So in mathematics, it's kind of like a dispersion of the sense of how your data is. In other words, you could have 100-0-0, Everybody passed it, but at very, very low levels. So this 90-60-30 also aligned with state and federal goals, of 60 by 30. By 2030, the state wants 60% or more of all students to be college or beyond high school ready. And that 60 represents kind of that middle number, the average of the three numbers. And you'll be glad to know that as a whole, we've just reached that already. Notice I said it's 60 by 30. The state goal is to get there by 2030. As I point out here, the district improved from last year, an 87-61-29. Again, that's 81% meeting the approaches standard. That's a low standard, but you do want to get everybody there. 61% at what you call the meets. In typical classroom experience, that's like you making 70, 75. And then 29% kind of making an 85 and 88. That's called masters in general sense. But we improved that to a 90-65-33. So our mantra is kind of a 90-60-30 because it's easy to remember, but we all really want higher than that. And I do point out one of our campuses actually has reached a 94-73-40 this year. So if I said it right, 94-73-40, which they're really getting up there. 94%. That's all tests, science, social studies, math, every single kid, all put in one bucket. 94% of them meet that first level. 73% are already at meets. 40% are already operating in masters. Nice numbers. Especially if you consider the state in general is down at 70, 50, 15.
Which campus was that?
That was Longview campus. And we can get more into particular campuses at another time too. Number D2A is Domain 2, Part A. This is a measure of growth and progress for reading and math. We believe the idea of progress for every student is the key to all these other measures. But STAR and EOC can only measure growth and progress in math and reading because it's given every year. And we find ways to employ this mentality to all the subjects, grade levels, and students. Well, and as I pointed out, the district improved 17 points from a D to a B. In order to make it A, we would have to get to what you call an 80% growth. In general terms, it means 80% of your students, however you got them, they stayed there or got better in your subject. It did not fall backwards at all. You would think you would have 100%. It ends up it's a challenge throughout the state to get 60% growth up through 80% would be an A, just as an idea. D2B is a measure of how we compare to other like campuses or districts that have the same percentage of ECD. That's what I mean by like. These are economically disadvantaged students. The district population increased from 18% ECD last year to 20.9% this year. And we improved this one from a D of a 69 to a C 79, almost to the D, compared to other districts who are 20% ECD. To let that sink in a little bit. In other words, our achievement from D1, which we talked about earlier, gave us an A, but that's compared to all districts in the state. Wow, but if you only compare yourself to schools like you, in other words, that only have 20, because that's the biggest challenge in schools is your percent of ECD kids. There we're scoring in the C. That exact same score, that same 90-60-30, gives you two scores, one against everybody and one against people like you. That's what D2B is about. Like I told you, the changes in ECD on the other campuses. Longview moved from 14 to 19%. Palestine moved from 29 to 38% economically disadvantaged. That's a challenge. And Tyler stayed at the low 14 to 14. It was more like it was 13.5 to 13.7. And then finally, D3. This is a measure of how we're meeting every subpopulation's needs, like African American, Hispanic, white, ELL, special ed, ECD. They also have others like continuously enrolled, non-continuously enrolled. Historically, it's been possible for campuses to do well in measures like D1 or D2 while overlooking or underserving certain populations, subpopulations. This domain is about seeking equity. We raised our score here from an 88 to a 92. Due efforts to serve all of our populations, making sure you're not leaving somebody behind. We have to look carefully at our ELL population sometimes, and we see that we're through our common efforts, we're not serving their needs well, we try to be more specific. But to add to that, I like the attitude that all of our directors have and curriculum team. They say, we never want to get to where you're just like, listen, I hope this sounds right. They're just serving a particular population. We want to do things in such a way that it serves all students. And there's a difference. I've seen schools with initiatives that do things that's like so specifically for a particular group and try to keep doing that around and around the merry-go-round. There really are principles and practices that raise this everyone's achievement, and that seems to constantly be the goal. So as I point out again, number 7 just simply says TEA will release the data tables to us by August 7th, publish these ratings by August 14th. So hopefully y'all hear those by the September board meetings or such a thing. And ratings will be finalized over this period after a period of appeal. So were there some questions that could help me?
How large are the 3 campuses? How many students do we have at each one?
That's a,
So to tell you the projection, the exact numbers.
You can look at last year, the one paper, this paper is last day of last year.
Yeah, so this is the last trying to give you the exact number. So Tyler ended up at 306 students. Longview at 257, Palestine at 160 with a total of 723.
We're all decently large. So I was wondering,
yes,
it looks like Tyler lags a little bit
true.
compared to the other campuses. Do you guys have a feel for whether that might be the case? I thought it might be because they were much, much larger. Statistically, it's gonna.
Well, so there's a whole team that is looking into that. The principal on this campus has looked into it quite a bit. She's found several things. I would leave that to them to discuss it. But they, you're right. But you do see they improved a little bit, but not as much as everybody else did. And
They're all very good.
yes, exactly. So then that makes just a little improvement not look as good. But there are people that are digging deeper into the data, including myself, to try to pinpoint some of these things. Some of it is actually, does come down to some small numbers. When you only have, and then 3 students, 7 students can make a big difference, swinging one way or the other when you miss something.
But one thing we are doing, we received the MIZ grant, which is a math blended learning grant. We received $130,000 over the course of 2 years. With that grant, we will be implementing blended learning into the math classroom. So we have had all our math teachers as well as our new teachers on campus this week, getting trained in the blended learning. They've already participated in several trainings. So what that will do is really, with blended learning, it looks at providing the student ownership, which aligns with our project-based learning model, but also looks at developing a curriculum to support their individual needs. And so they log into a software that's part of the grant, and they work at their pace. That software gets the feedback, gets the teacher feedback, built to monitor it. And they do this in conjunction with still the project-based learning and the problem-based learning that we utilize.
Yeah, math has been interesting. When we started off with it, everything was PBL, and math did not flourish very well, at least in the way we were doing that. So we separated it, and we're more traditional about it, but at PRBL. But now it's a movement to a hybrid in a sense that kind of takes the best of all worlds with the blended, with the personalized. And we're really excited about, the data was showing some lagging in the math and particularly on this campus. So that's something that's being headed up with a big initiative and then coaching underneath it for support.
So we're really excited. We met our targets and very excited that we have a preliminary score of an A. Just here in Smith County last year, I was talking to Dr. Hickey earlier this week. If I recall, Lendale was the only school that got an A last year in Smith County. So if you think about that, they don't just hand the A's out. In all of Smith County, that was the only school that got an A. I think we tied second with White House at 89 last year. And I think that in the other counties, do you remember in Anderson who got an A? If there was anyone? I can't remember if.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the little school there right now.
Was it Pine Tree or Spring Hill?
Spring Hill.
Spring Hill.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one in Anderson County. And
Gregg
then
County.
Gregg County. The Anderson County was not Elkhart.
Right. Slocum?
Slocum.
school got it. So there was one in each county that were represented in. So again, it just shows you that obtaining an A is a very high level of achievement. So we hope that we receive an A. So we're very excited about it. Any questions about the data? And we will have you do have an opportunity. As we shared last year, TDA will provide a link once everything is official. And you as a parent, as a board member, they have made it so user friendly where a parent can dig down and view exactly on the Tyler campus what students in what grade, how did they score. So we actually know where this V came from. I mean, we know that exactly what grade level it came from, what classroom it came from. And you as a parent and as a community member can also, you'll have access to that data once everything's finalized. Any questions? A shout out to Mr. Weaver. This is very hard to do. And this is his niche.
I
He
enjoy it.
loves to do.
Especially when we're doing good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I always know for doing good if I look in there and he's like, okay, we're, you know, if he starts to sweat, then I'm starting to sweat. So some of you may have heard if you've even had the news on about House Bill 3. So this was our legislature met this year and they did a overhaul, school finance overhaul. In fact, it's one of the biggest. And so that has caused districts, ISDs, charter schools, a little bit of extra work this year as we look at identifying the requirements within the House Bill 3. So I do have my notes, and that's what I was pulling up just to make sure I cover everything. We've had an opportunity to attend several conferences. In fact, the university, the college hosted one of the best ones that provided us an overview of the House Bill 3. So with House Bill 3, the biggest thing, if you turn the news on, they're going to talk about, it's going to narrow it down to the schools are getting more money. And that's all people hear is that you're at the charter schools and ISD, the state is giving more money. And it is a celebration without a doubt. But the number varies per campus and district. And so, you know, right now, if you pull up an overview, it shows funding increase on an average of $635 per student. Well, we did not receive $635 per student. The template was just released, and it looks like we're going to receive a little over 200, and it's like 210. Was it not that much? Yeah. So anyway, so as you can see, that number doesn't reflect every school district. Some districts receive more than that.
Is that based on cost of living, or what is the reason for the?
You know, that's a good
variance?
question. Is it based on the ECD population, the
It's gonna-
community number of students?
Yeah, so when you start looking at the special programs like the CTE funding, the SPED funding, the ECD funding, the ESL funding, and you start tabulating all that, and you get down to the bottom dollar of your revenue, and you look at it per student. So you basically take that revenue amount and you divide it by your ADA of like 800, you're going to come up with an amount, and then that's your per student amount. And so it's another school district who maybe has the higher population of ECD students or the higher population or more CTE or
Yes.
whatever, their bottom dollar, when you divide it by how many students they have, they're going to get more per student.
It sounds like that's a definite influence, the ECD.
Yeah.
Because I think we talked last year, John Tyler was over 90%, right? ECD, and I mean, that's,
I have a sticky note on my desk that has that figure.
yeah, I was just curious. That's a
That number is definitely growing across, you know, several districts for sure. And as you saw here, we saw an increase with our ECD students in Palestine, although Lone Peak and Tyler remained the same. So the biggest thing is, like I said, with House Bill 3, they increased the ADA for campuses, and that did apply to charter schools, which again, that's a celebration, and ISDs. So the one biggest thing that came out of that was with that increased ADA, that districts were required to increase teacher salaries. So the state updated their salary scale. Salary scale basically is if you have 0 years of experience, this is the base salary up to 20 years experience. So a teacher can go to see what is the base across the state. Well, we pay, districts oftentimes pay over base, us included. And so looking at that, the state says, of the additional funds that you receive, 30% of those funds have to be allocated to teacher pay raises. Of the 30%, 70% of the funds have to be allocated to teachers that have 5 or more years experience. The justification was for that was that the state felt like, and I think that it's the case, that districts were rewarding first and through 5-year teachers, but after that, teachers didn't receive much of an incentive to stay in the classroom. And you know, there's a shortage of teachers, and you know, we want to encourage teachers to stay in the classroom. Oftentimes, they master their craft after around 5 years. You know, a first-year teacher usually is dependent on that teacher that has 5 years experience to help mentor them and guide them through those first couple of years. So one thing, so that is a requirement on our part. So with our salaries, we have presented a salary scale to Dr. Hickey and Dr. Sherman. With that, that will be presented to the provost and the president. And then upon that approval, then we'll be able to share that with the board to show you exactly what we're projecting. So that's really the overview of, you know, what we're looking at right now. So some districts may have heard in your local area, some districts have already approved their budget and already approved their salaries, and they're advertising it. Some of them jumped ahead because now they're not going to be able to make budget. They're having to take money from their fund balance to fund their next year's 1920 budget because they wanted to they thought, okay, the state's going to give us extra money, and they just assumed that they were going to get the $635 per student, and jumped and announced that they were going to give teachers a $5,000 pay increase, and now they're struggling. So you can Google it and see articles out of Austin and Texas. But note too, you do not have to just use a minimum of 30%. A district can utilize the entire additional amount of the money received with House Bill 30. And what most districts are seeing, in order to give a reasonable raise and to maintain the competitiveness with the other districts, they're having to use a large portion, if not all, to fund the increased pay raises. Just because, one, it's needed, and two, you know, everyone wants to be competitive, and you know, it's one of those things where in order to be competitive, and what happens is the law said that you had to give teachers, nurses, and counselors raises. So what happens when you give them raises? What about your other employees on the other end? Well, the equity, when you start giving those raises, then you start looking at the your administrators and your other staff that are assigned to the campus. And so we have made a proposal again to the college, to the dean, and looking to finalize that so that that can be presented. Our goal is it has to be in our new budget because the law also reads that it has to be reflected in their first paycheck because you're receiving funds, and if you receive the funds, it has to be distributed to the teachers. You can't hold it. You can't pay it out as a stipend at the end of the year. It has to be reflected in their check and reflected in to TRS. Another thing that the state said is, you know, with TRS that you have to make sure that you're at least paying base. If you don't, you're going to have to pay the difference. And so that's something else that we've had to look at. It's really looking at making sure that teachers are getting paid for a reasonable salary for the requirements that they're undertaking. So looking at that, I think the biggest thing that we're facing is that, you know, our teachers wanting to know what their raise is, and we're waiting to get that approved. And then when the bill was initially presented, everyone heard $5,000 paid per teacher, and that's not what it ended up being. And so there's a lot of teachers that are very disappointed because they thought they were going to get a $5,000 raise across the board without a doubt. And that was the intent. I think it was Governor Abbott that his intent was that it to be a $5,000, but it didn't end up passing. So that was one of the biggest things that came out of House Bill 3 that has impacted us. It also looked at increased focus on learning and improving student outcomes, which looked at a full-day pre-K, which we currently don't offer, and third grade reading support. What that means is they're looking at requiring teachers to attend Reading Academy training
required you to teach a specific grade in a content area. Also, it looked at increasing SPED funding. So that's when JMO was talking about the increased funding that you're going to receive. So we will receive additional funding for SPED students, and also for the very first time funding for the dyslexia students. And that's a new initiative. And then also CTE and new tech funding. Blended learning, again, we were one of the districts out of, I think, only 20 districts that received the MIZ grant, and we were one. And so that is a big initiative where the state is looking at blended learning and supporting students and giving them ownership. And so we're excited to be in the forefront. In fact, the presenters and the trainers that have come to our district said we are far more advanced than any district they've ever worked with on blended learning and student individualized plans. So we're excited about that. In fact, they wanted to use us as a showcase in that area. And then also the one area that I'm really excited about, because I have a younger child, is extended elementary school year. So this will not actually come about until the 2021 school year. But the state is looking at for grades, don't quote me on this, I think it's grades K through 3rd or 5th. I can't remember. Do you remember?
It's K. I think it's K5.
Okay, I do too. So that was mine. So K5, they're looking at providing and funding an additional 30 days of instruction. And the reason for that is there has been study after study that has showed that when a student leaves for the summer, the gap in their instructional gap decreases. And so it's one of those things where that they feel the need, especially at that younger age, to continue to have that student go additional 30 days and provide that's funding. So we're really excited about that. We don't know all the details. It could be that it will only be for students that are below grade level, or we're hoping it's for all students. But the great news is we had a reading program on this campus this year where a select group of students, I think we had 15 students participated in a month-long, Monday through Thursday, 3 hours a day with in conjunction with the university, and received reading support. Those students made substantial gains over that time period, but it was the cost of, on the parent. The parent had to pay, I think, around $400 for their child to participate. This would be free of charge for parents. So very excited about that opportunity. Again, that will be in the works for the future. Yes.
The extended school year, is that something that is built into the whole school year, or is this an option?
It's option. It's an additional 30 days option. So no, it's not required. It's additional option opportunity for students to get additional support. And I'm not sure, again, the details haven't been communicated. I'm not sure if they're going to fund a full day or if they're going to fund a additional half 30 days. But I think it's a great opportunity, especially for those kids that need additional support during the summer, and then the funding that's tied to it, because a lot of teachers are open to working during the summer, but sometimes there's not money to fund it.
Can I ask, and I haven't read all the details on that, when she asks optional, I think she's meaning by from the parent's standpoint of the parent having the option versus the district having the option to host it. If the district chooses to do it, then it could potentially be required.
No, it's not
No,
ever.
okay.
They have clarified it will never be required, the district, for every child. The district can choose to offer the additional 30 days of instruction, but doesn't mean if we choose that every child has to attend and we get dinged if they don't. That was a question that was asked in one of our meetings. The other thing that they looked at was the reduced property taxes and recapture, which doesn't impact us because we're charter school, and then increased funding and equity. And so again, that's all part of the funding and equity looks at compensatory education, and then also equal treatment for ASF funding. So the biggest thing that came out of it is the teacher pay raises. So it's exciting. So it was a good year for educators for sure. So we're excited to kick off the year, and we're hopefully going to be able to hand our teachers a new agreement that shows that they get a small raise. So it'd be a great start to the year. Any questions on House Bill 3? And there's so much information. If you want to know all the details, you can Google it and put in House Bill 3 and you can read every detail about it. So the other thing that we're looking at is financial updates. You can provide those.
I separated these out again. This one is just showing our activity counts. Some of these are upside down, but y'all just approved some amendments that will edit those on the next report. And then our general fund, we've received 5.3 million revenue and we've expensed 5.5 million of that revenue.
But we have quite a few payments of revenue still.
Yeah,
scheduled.
this is only as of June 30th. We will receive July and August revenue, which is almost $1 million between those two payments.
So we're hoping to actually have a little bit to roll over in our fund balance as we projected it.
But the expenses line, budgeted expenses, right?
Yes.
All right, you want to go back? Any questions? Can also note with House Bill 3, it looks like one of the areas that you may want to know is that it looks like we'll get about $1 million, not with House Bill 3, but it looks like our revenue will increase a little over $1 million. With that will include House Bill 3, and that will include all the additional students that we're getting for next year. So that's our preliminary data. So it will be. It's over 7 million next year.
Right.
What we're looking at.
Yeah, right now we're looking at an increase of about 1.3 million, but that's a very conservative number. That's not taking into account a lot of the increased areas that are new. We're not even trying to project that. We're basically kind of saying like we're going to get it, but we're not going to even because we don't know what that number is going to look like yet. So like all the career military stuff, like the CTE that she mentioned. Not only did the weights go up, but they moved it down to 7th grade, where before we could only do 9 to 12. So now we can get funding for those 7th and 8th graders in CTE. So those things we haven't even included in that 1.3.
So we'll actually get additional funds. So we're excited about that.
Did you say when you'll find out about the additional funds?
So that's one reason we adopt our budget this meeting. That's why we scheduled a meeting in August because we just got the template to show us kind of an estimate of what we're going to receive. So in our August meeting, we will adopt or present our budget for 1920 school year. Just an overview of the enrollment and attendance. We've already looked at that shortly. As you can see, we ended with 723. If you want to see all the specifics, you have that information. The good news is that I can come out of this was that we have projected 848 students next year. 214 of those students will be new. And on the wait list, we have 281 students across the district. So the largest wait list we've ever had. Longview is leading the pack with 176 students on their wait list. So it's exciting. And I know you're getting the pressure from that. I was telling Dr. Hickey, Longview is competitive. Any questions about projections for next year, wait list? We've had enrollments on each campus that trying to get in all the paperwork that's required. All right, on the next update, we'll look at kind of combining these campus facilities, transportation. So I talked to you about the transportation when we talked about the budget. So we're really excited about those purchases. Facility updates, if you have a chance, a couple things we did here this summer. We renovated the gym area. So they stripped out all the carpet. They've added in tile. They're painting today. And they stripped out the they made the baptistry into a closet and stripped out the stage. So that's going to open up that area, bring it in. It definitely has a better smell and it's a lot more open and lighter. So
piano.
Yes, we were able to move all of that. So a lot of space that's going to open up to bring in. Really, I have a real nicer, a lot better gym area for the students. And so we're really excited about that. We're also looking at creating a sidewalk, having a sidewalk from this campus to the cafeteria, because right now our students are walking in the mud areas, which, you know, if they walk in that mud, guess where it ends up during the day. So we're looking at that project as well. I think that project's still around $30,000, and then the renovation for the gym area was around $27,000. So I'm real excited about those updates here for the Tyler campus. As you know, facility updates in Palestine. If we are on schedule, the last information I received, they will wax the floors the 24th and 25th, and teachers will begin accessing the facility Monday the 28th. And so that
That's great.
information has been sent out to teachers. So we're looking at bringing in all the furniture and getting that campus ready, up and going. So exciting opportunity there as well. And then in Longview, we didn't have very many renovations this year. Our goal is to start looking at Longview and an opportunity. I've already started hitting Dr. Hickey up on it to bring in additional portables there too, so that we can address some of these waitlist concerns.
You mentioned a gym on the Tyler campus. Does Palestine have access to a gym?
No. And the gym here is basically just a larger room area. It might be something that we could consider when we look at bringing in additional portables in Longview. I know that we talked about that there was a portable in Palestine that is a larger portable that they'll be able to host in the event they can't access outside. They'll be able to utilize as somewhere in the gym area. It's not as large as this one here. So that's a great option to consider. They're going to use it as a gym / cafeteria. So it'll be the very first time in Palestine that the students haven't had to eat in their classrooms. Here, they don't eat in their classroom. So that will be something we can consider as we look at adding on it with approval, the space and looking at, do we want to create a gym / cafeteria area when we do add additional portables. And then, so any questions about facility? I think the parents in Palestine are pleased, excited.
Very excited. There's development boards raising funds.
Yeah.
And continuing to do so. And so, and that's going well. We're putting on I think we've raised enough money to get a brick facade put on.
Yeah.
And so we're
And the playground's been ordered.
yes.
So yes, it will be installed in the middle of August. So like I saw. So I'm very excited about that.
Will there be any type of open house community welcoming for Palestine? Or is
You
it
know,
just meet the teacher night?
No, I think that we've talked about it. I'm afraid to advertise anything right now.
Sure.
I'm just wanting to get access to the building and make sure there is a chair for every student.
Sure.
You know, yeah.
Right.
But you understand my stress right now. It's like, okay, as long as everybody has a place to sit, I'm going to be fine. I don't want to be in the paper the school open and we don't have a place
right.
to sit. But that's definitely a great idea.
I think it is.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do
I
too.
think-
So
I
we
think
need
we
to start
should
working on
absolutely do that.
something like that. You could definitely do it in conjunction with open house. I will say that Longview is having an event that we're going to partner with. The LUC is having a big open house celebration. It's towards the end of August.
Yes, I think that's right. I got
There's going to
save
be
the
food
date.
trucks and they're having bounce houses for the kids that, and so we're going to partner with the university. The LUC and the University Academy are going to partner together on that event. And so that's a big event that they're going to host. So we might look at kind of something that, doing the very same thing in Palestine, having a community awareness and
Well, I
some food
think
trucks
absolutely.
and things like that. I think that's
Once
a
we
great
get
idea.
everything in place and we know it's there,
Yeah.
then we'll sound the trumpet.
Yeah, that's right. I don't want to put the word out. I don't want to advertise anything right now. Any other additional questions?
There's no other questions. You do a motion to adjourn?
Mhm.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And so I have no idea what time it is.
1:04.
That's good. 1:04, we are adjourned.
All right.
You guys mind if we take like 2 minutes and introduce ourselves?
Please.
Because I feel like I know some of you, but I don't